You ever wonder what your favorite corner coffee shop and, say, the biggest tech companies in the world have in common? Well, it's this force that literally builds our world. It's the spark that can turn a simple idea into a huge, thriving business. And today, we're going to demystify that exact force enterprise.
I mean, think about it. Your favorite brand, that app on your phone you can't live without, or maybe just that local store you always go to. What's the one single ingredient they all share? It's not just about the product, or the service. It's something way more fundamental. Right. That common ingredient, that's the spark of enterprise. It's the real starting point for everything we're about to get into. So, what does enterprise actually mean anyway?
Okay, so first things first, don't mistake enterprise for just another word for a company. It's not. It's an ability. It's that basic human impulse to spot an opportunity, take a calculated risk, and then pull together all the necessary pieces. The people, the money, the materials to create something brand new. You can almost think of it as the engine of creation in the business world. And this process, it kind of follows a clear path. See, it all starts with an idea. But let's be honest, an idea is pretty useless without the drive to actually push it forward. And that drive, it inevitably means you're taking risks, you're leaping into the unknown. The final piece of the puzzle is turning that abstract opportunity into a real functioning business. If you miss any part of that sequence, innovation just stalls. Of course, this spirit of enterprise needs a person to channel it, right? And that's where the entrepreneur comes in. They're the catalyst. They don't just sit around and dream up ideas. They actually put their own resources on the line. They organize all the chaos, and they're the ones making the tough calls that will decide if this whole venture sinks or swims. So let's talk about the entrepreneurial mindset for a second. This is less about what they do and way more about who they are. We're talking about people who are comfortable with risk, who are constantly innovating, and who have this just unwavering determination and self-belief, especially when things get really tough. But luck, personality isn't enough, not by a long shot. Determination alone won't get you very far if you don't have the right tools. Entrepreneurs also need a whole set of practical, learned skills. Things like solid planning, clear communication, sharp negotiation, and a really firm grip on the finances. These are the skills that turn that big vision into an actual reality.
Okay, so we've seen the individual spark. But what happens when thousands or even millions of these sparks all ignite at once? Well, you get a force that's powerful enough to drive an entire economy. And this is where you really see the ripple effect. I mean, an entrepreneur doesn't just build a business for themselves. They create jobs, which helps lower unemployment. Their new ideas force entire industries to innovate. And they introduce competition, which is fantastic for us, the consumers, because it means better products at lower prices. All of this activity fuels economic growth and, even generates the tax revenue that pays for our public services.
But let's be real, it is rarely an easy path. For every single success story you hear about, there are countless challenges behind the scenes. The whole journey is kind of like running a gauntlet, just this series of incredibly tough trials that every new enterprise has to survive. And here they are, the big ones. First, you're unproven, so trying to get funding is incredibly tough. Then there's cash flow, which becomes this constant tightrope walk. It is the silent killer of so many great ideas. You're out there fighting against established giants. You have to find not just customers, but the right team. And you're doing all this while you're literally drowning in paperwork and juggling the roles of CEO, marketer, and accountant. It's a massive, multi-front battle, for sure. So when you think about that gauntlet, what is it that separates the ones who make it through from the ones who don't? Why do some ventures thrive while so many others just stumble?
All right, let's break down the difference. On the success side, it's often built on things like strong leadership, really understanding the market, and solid financial discipline. But failure? Well, that's often rooted in classic pitfalls like a weak business plan, terrible cash flow, or just flat out underestimating the competition. The lesson here is pretty clear. Success isn't about some lucky break. It's about smart execution and having the resilience to keep pushing through. But the world of enterprise, it isn't static. It's always evolving. The very definition of what it even means to be entrepreneurial is changing. That spark we've been talking about, it's not just found in startups anymore. It's being reimagined in some really interesting new ways. Okay, so first up, meet the intrapreneur. This is someone who channels that exact same enterprise spirit, but they do it from inside a large established company. They're the innovators pushing for new products or figuring out how to improve processes from the inside out, and they get to use the company's resources to make it all happen. So why would big companies embrace intrapreneurs? Simple. They're basically a secret weapon. They stop the company from getting stale. They empower talented employees to make a real, tangible impact. And ultimately, they create a huge competitive edge by unlocking all of that hidden potential that's already inside their own workforce. Another really powerful evolution we're seeing is the rise of the social enterprise. Now, this is a fascinating hybrid. It operates just like a regular business, using commercial strategies to stay afloat, but its primary goal isn't making a profit for shareholders. Nope, its main goal is to solve a social or an environmental problem. So for these kinds of businesses, the traditional bottom line, just profit, isn't enough. They measure their success using something called the triple bottom line. So that means they track 3 key pillars: profit, of course, to make sure they're financially stable; people, to measure their positive social impact; and planet, to keep an eye on their environmental footprint. It's a much more holistic view of what a successful business can actually be. All right, to wrap things up, let's look at the Founder's Toolkit. These are a few core concepts that every single entrepreneur, intrapreneur, and social entrepreneur has to master. These are pretty much the mental models they live by. First up is something called opportunity cost. Basically, every decision you make means you're not doing something else. So if you invest your time and money into Project A, you can't invest that same time and money into Project B. That lost opportunity, the value of what Project B could have been, that's your opportunity cost. Getting your head around this helps you make the smartest choices when you've got limited resources. Next up, added value. This is really the heart of any business. The whole goal is to take your raw inputs, we're talking materials, labor, ideas, and transform them into something a customer is willing to pay more for. That difference between your selling price and your costs, that's the value you've created. And really, enterprise is all about making that gap as big as possible. And finally, we have the blueprint for the whole thing, the business plan. Now, this is not just some document you write to get a loan. It's the master plan that forces you to think through every single aspect of your venture, from your core idea and your market, all the way down to your financial forecast and who you need to hire. It's the guide that helps reduce risk and really sets you on a path toward your goals. So there you have it. We've gone all the way from that initial spark of an idea to the actual tools you need to build it into a reality. We've seen the gauntlet of challenges and the different shapes enterprise can take in the modern world. So the only question left is the one that started this whole thing. What's your spark?